Interestingly, we haven't seen the indictments yet. There's been some time lag. I suppose it will take some time to go through all the forensic, evidence.
Same kind of extortion that we heard when Cassie took the stand and testified on that airplane ride back from France. Diddy said, "You don't do a freak off, I'm going to release one of the freak off videos that you are profiled in and humiliate."
From the moment those recordings surfaced, it became clear we were not just watching another petty rap feud. We were watching a potential career collapse in real time. According to insiders, the audio that 50 Cent quietly circulated does more than embarrass Rick Ross. It allegedly places him inside the same shadowy orbit that has already put Sean Diddy Combs in a federal courtroom on racketeering charges, and behind the walls of a New Jersey facility as of October 30th, 2024. The leaks are being described by people who claim to have heard them as compromising business discussions, conversations that suddenly sound a lot more dangerous now that prosecutors are calling Diddy's empire a criminal enterprise stretching back nearly 2 decades.
I was locked up with one of Diddy's security guards, Big Bones. Word. That was Diddy, man. That was my man. That's my man till this day. Named Bonds. It's my dude.
When we line up the timeline, the stakes get even clearer. Diddy is already serving more than 4 years on commercial exploitation-related counts in New York and has had his projected release date pushed from May 8, 2028 to June 4, 2028, after a recalculation by the Bureau of Prisons. At the same time, he is fighting a sweeping RICO indictment that accuses him of using Bad Boy Entertainment and other businesses to coerce women into freak-off-style encounters, and then cover it all up through intimidation, payoffs, and coordinated silence. Prosecutors have called it an enterprise. Witnesses have testified since spring 2025 about coordinated arson, alleged kidnapping, and high-pressure hush arrangements. And the conviction rate for major RICO cases between 2018 and 2022 has hovered above 97%. Against that backdrop, any tape that appears to show Rick Ross helping to coordinate events, logistics, or payouts is no longer a private embarrassment. It starts to look like evidence.
That was all the people that went to the puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Got punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being a man. So I believe that's a big problem with a lot of the actors out there because they get fluid. And next thing you know, once you go fluid,
We have to remember who is pressing play here. This is 50 Cent, a man who has spent almost 20 years waging psychological war on both Ross and Diddy, from early diss tracks to his 2006 record, The Bomb, where he openly suggested Diddy knew more about the Biggie tragedy than he ever admitted. In August 2024, he was already teasing a Netflix documentary on Diddy's alleged pattern of abuse, framing it as a story with significant human impact that would go far beyond the headlines and into systemic behavior. When federal agents raided Diddy's homes in Los Angeles and Miami in March 2024, 50 did not hesitate to say that authorities do not move like that unless they have a case. So when those new tapes suddenly surface with Ross's voice on them, we are not just hearing sound. We are watching 50 methodically feed material into a narrative he has been building for years.
Likely what's going to happen, but now there's an added element to this, an added element of drama. Diddy is going to speak. He has some things he wants to say to the judge, to the court, and he has actually filed a request with the judge that he can wear street clothes instead of his prison jumpsuit because he wants to look good for whatever it is.
At the same time, the legal weather around Diddy keeps getting darker. In November 2024, the LA County Sheriff's Department confirmed that its Special Victims Bureau had opened a probe into an alleged 2020 incident at a storage facility in eastern Los Angeles, after receiving a report from a smaller Lago department. That West Coast investigation runs parallel to the New York RICO trial, where by June 2025, a jury had already begun deliberating on multiple counts, including racketeering conspiracy, trafficking-related charges, and transportation to engage in commercial exploitation. Federal experts who have spoken publicly about the case emphasize that RICO lets prosecutors stitch together years of behavior, from alleged freak-off events in luxury hotels to an incident where Combs allegedly arranged for a luxury car tied to Kid Cudi to be firebombed as a message. When we now hear claims that Ross appears on tape talking through logistics for private gatherings, guest lists, and security arrangements, the obvious question becomes whether those conversations intersect with events already under federal review.
Trying to find her, and her attorney has said that she may not be willing to come and testify anyway. So
Be interesting. Okay, we're moving on.
Rick Ross has spent years selling an image of the untouchable mogul, the self-made boss building Wingstop deals, luxury car collections, and motivational sound bites about ownership and generational wealth. We have watched him troll 50 Cent online over everything from album sales to alleged personal scandals, laughing into his front-facing camera and calling 50 light or broke while fans cheer him on in the comments. In July 2024, he was on Instagram offering a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for 50 to pitch film ideas to him, framing himself as the financier who could change your life if he felt like it. That presentation matters because it is precisely what these recordings threaten to undercut. If insiders are right, the Ross we hear on these tapes is not the clean, above-the-fray investor. He is a man speaking comfortably about Diddy's most controversial late-night gatherings, about budgets, and about who needs to be in the room. That contradiction is where this story explodes.
Continue to engage in all these freak-offs with him, and he sounds really pissed off.
Hey, I really don't know what's going on with you, but I just want to just give you a heads up that I'm about to really disappear on you. You feel me? I'm not going to be playing these games with you at all, at all. So I don't know, you think you silent treating me, and you think I'm going to be, nah. You'll have a rude awakening.
For years, Ross has tried to distance himself from the darker side of his own lyrics, especially the infamous 2013 UONO bar about slipping something into a woman's drink, a line that cost him major endorsement deals and forced public apologies. 50 Cent has repeatedly dragged that moment back into the spotlight, pairing it with visuals of other disgraced figures like R. Kelly and Jeffrey Epstein, to frame Ross as part of a broader pattern. Now, sources familiar with the new leak say those old lyrics sound different when you hear Ross on tape, calmly strategizing around events where substances, power imbalances, and secrecy collide. It is not that the recordings prove any specific crime on Ross's part. There is no public indictment tying his name to a formal conspiracy as of late 2025. But they strongly suggest proximity. They suggest comfort. And in a RICO world, proximity and comfort can become very dangerous words. We also have to look at the wider map of Diddy's alleged operation as laid out in court. Prosecutors claim that he used employees, security, assistants, and business partners to source substances, move people across state lines, and erase traces of what really happened after nights of excess. Former insiders have described being ordered to buy supplies, arrange transport for women flown in for multi-day hotel events, and even secure and destroy surveillance footage after violent incidents. Cassie Ventura herself told a New York jury about a 2016 confrontation in an LA hotel hallway that later surfaced on a camera, a video Diddy's camp allegedly paid 6 figures to make disappear. If Ross is on tape discussing coordination or support for high-end gatherings at Diddy-linked properties between 2020 and 2023, federal investigators will want to know whether those nights line up with witness statements, travel records, or pending civil suits. Meanwhile, inside Fort Dix, Diddy's life looks very different from the glossy image he projected for decades. Paperwork from late 2024 shows him working as a chaplain's assistant, a relatively prestigious job inside the facility that allows for more movement and a cleaner environment than most inmates see. He has been placed in the Residential Substance Abuse Program, an intensive treatment track that can shave up to a year off a sentence for those who complete it successfully. At the same time, he has already been written up for an unauthorized 3-way phone call on November 3, 2024, a rule violation that could cost him 90 days of phone and commissary privileges. For a man who once controlled international PR campaigns with a single social media post, being punished for a conference call on his 56th birthday is a humiliating come-down. For Ross, whose alleged taped conversations now float in this same legal atmosphere, it is a preview of how fast status can evaporate once federal institutions turn their full attention your way. And this is where the panic starts to ripple across the industry.
Known that I've talked for a while, a lot of people are buzzing that Diddy's former BFFs are real quiet.
And they have been.
And people were wondering why and who's the next to fall. And then Jay-Z comes out, and then LeBron James says, I'm stepping away for excused personal reasons. And people are going, oh, what is going on?
Sources close to nightlife promoters in Los Angeles and Miami say that ever since the RICO indictment became public, there has been a quiet scramble among regulars at Diddy's parties to find out what was recorded, what was seized, and which names might appear in unsealed transcripts. Some artists have reportedly instructed their teams to comb through old DMS and travel logs to see how often their paths crossed with Diddy-hosted trips or retreats between 2015 and 2022. Against that nervous backdrop, the idea that 50 Cent is sitting on tapes of Rick Ross speaking candidly about Diddy's parties is more than gossip. It is leverage. It is a warning shot to anyone else who ever sat comfortably on those couches or watched those doors close. Ross's immediate reaction to the leak only adds more smoke. People monitoring his online footprint say he moved unusually fast to delete a cluster of posts linked to Diddy, including older clips where he praised the Bad Boy founder or joked lightly about their shared nightlife. At the same time, lawyers believed to be connected to Ross's camp have been quietly reaching out to smaller platforms and bloggers, warning about defamatory assumptions and threatening action over any claim that directly labels Ross as a co-conspirator. Yet we have not seen a clean, on-camera denial from Ross himself, the kind of straight-ahead statement that would put his version on the record. Instead, we are seeing trolling videos aimed at 50, vague references to fake narratives, and then sudden silence whenever interviewers try to ask specific questions about what exactly is on those tapes. That silence is even more striking when we compare it to how loudly Ross has usually moved in his wars with 50.
You know, it's the most insane thing I had to deal with in life. I never wanted to go to jail again. You gotta smell other people, take showers and watch your back. This just broke up with his girl. You got gang over here extorting this. You got...
Over the years, he has mocked 50 for alleged bankruptcies, dismissed him as a man who might need a job, and claimed in interviews that their feud would never end because he was simply operating on a higher financial level. In late 2023 and early 2024, he was online clowning 50's tour recaps, album sales jabs, and even his dating life, dragging Cuban Link's proximity to Dream Chasers and laughing about many men in thinly veiled references. But now that 50's ammunition is no longer just old lyrics or personal insults, but audio that could interest federal investigators already mapping Diddy's network, the energy has shifted. We are seeing a boss who suddenly looks like he is choosing his words very carefully, leaving us to wonder what exactly he has already said in private that he cannot afford to repeat in public. And while Ross stays quiet on the substance of those recordings, the paperwork moving quietly through the courts is not staying quiet about him at all. In Diddy's fast-tracked RICO appeal, legal analysts have flagged a sealed appendix where, according to people familiar with the filings, Ross's name reportedly appears in a list of known associates tied to potential predicate acts, including alleged coordination of private gatherings and possible witness outreach between 2018 and 2023. We are talking about language like racketeering conspiracy, facilitation, and even hints of witness tampering, the kind of phrases that turn a gossip story into a federal problem the second a judge signs off on them. Even if Ross is not charged, the simple fact that attorneys have to address his proximity in documents headed for a federal appeals court in mid-2026 means every call, every transfer, every late-night plane trip could be reread as evidence instead of lifestyle. From there, the damage does not stay in the courtroom. We can already see the ripple hitting his money. Multiple brand partners who once bragged about being tied to the biggest boss are now, according to agency sources, quietly requesting reputation risk assessments on any campaign that puts Ross's face next to theirs, especially in the US and Europe, where regulators are watching celebrity endorsements tied to ongoing investigations. Wingstop franchise operators, who rode the hype of Ross's name through 2020 and 2021, are suddenly giving very careful answers when asked if the rapper still shows up on internal decks. And one Miami-based investor, who previously touted a joint hospitality venture, has gone dark on social media after scrubbing old photos with Ross and Diddy from his feed. This is how a brand unravels in real time, not with one big announcement, but with a quiet series of "we're reassessing" emails and postponed meetings that never get rescheduled. The most sensitive piece, insiders say, is not even the food or clothing deals, it is the real estate. Over the last decade, Ross has bragged about sprawling estates in Georgia, portfolio plays in Florida, and commercial developments positioned as long-term cash machines. But since the RICO case against Diddy went to trial in New York in 2025, two separate Finance World sources claim lenders have begun taking a harder look at anything that smells like it touched Combs' orbit, asking whether properties were ever used for high-end retreats or late-night events that now sound a lot less glamorous in front of a jury. If investigators can show that any rental, renovation, or security contract doubled as support for Diddy's alleged enterprise, those holdings could be reframed as tools of an operation, and no serious bank wants its logo on that kind of exhibit.
If he gets 14 months, if the defense gets what they want, he'd essentially get out October 3rd because
he's been in
for a
13
year,
months.
And you get 15% credit for time served. So he'd basically be out after the sentence, and then he'd be on supervised release.
Then we hit the concert that will not stop raising eyebrows. Ross's 2023 Welcome Home event for Demetrius Big Meech Flannery in Florida. On the surface, it looked like sentimental branding, a celebration of a legendary figure whose story had already been dramatized by 50 through the BMF series. But three industry veterans insist that to Diddy's camp, that night read like a coded message. By headlining a welcome home show while still trolling 50 and smiling through questions about the RICO climate, Ross was, in their words, letting certain people know he was still on that side of the room. Pair that with reports that a handful of Diddy-adjacent figures were spotted backstage and in private lounges, and the concert starts to look less like a simple booking and more like a loyalty signal sent at a very specific moment in the federal timeline. We also cannot ignore the psychology. Ross has spent more than a decade performing public loyalty but cutting quiet deals in the background. And the leaks force us to put that split under a microscope.
Are you done with Hollywood because of this specific reason?
I'm still working. I still, I haven't made the money necessary to do all of the other stuff. So I still have to go and do the Chitlin circuit. I still have to do the job that I need to. But eventually, I've done what I set out to do, which was to redefine the universe. I've proven what I've set out to do, and that's why I have all the patents, whether they evaluate it or not.
Back in 2009, he was gleefully mocking Ten's financial troubles on wax, turning court documents and bankruptcy filings into punchlines, and selling himself as the stable empire builder who would never end up in that kind of courtroom drama. Fast forward to July 2024, and we watch the same man hop on Instagram, offering to bankroll 50's film ideas, inviting him to sit at his table in exchange for a pitch. In hindsight, that truce reads very differently when we know 50 was already deep into building a documentary on Diddy and collecting stories about those infamous gatherings. Was that offer a savvy business pivot, or the early stage of trying to buy peace from the one rival with a habit of turning rumors into televised narratives? There is also that 2021 direct message to Diddy that insiders keep bringing up, the one described as Ross talking about finalizing the deal. Nobody outside that inner circle has seen the full thread, and the labels have declined to comment. But people who claim to have been close to the negotiations say it involved a package that blended appearance fees, cross-promotion, and private hosting for select gatherings in LA and Miami. On its face, that sounds like standard celebrity business. Under the light of a RICO indictment, finalizing the deal starts to sound like establishing a pipeline. Venues, talent, security, and secrecy, all running through the same familiar faces. If prosecutors can ever tie that vague phrase to specific events already sworn about on the stand, Ross's position shifts from spectator to potential facilitator in a narrative his team has tried hard to stay outside of. Meanwhile, the financial pressure and the legal shadows are feeding off each other. We can see it in how fast Ross's circle is shrinking.
You are literally, it's an unhealthy space. And so eventually you're going to go too far, Who knows what happened to Philip? Who knows what he had to do in order to get to where he was at? There's a lot of things that people do that end up sitting and they can't get over it. And they got to keep getting high, hoping to get it out of their head,
Managers who once posted every private jet selfie now limit comments. Stylists who stunted about the biggest boss barely mention his name. And promoters in Vegas and Houston are said to be quietly pivoting to less controversial headliners for 2025 and 2026 festival slots. One former road manager claims that in the months after Diddy's March 2024 raids, Ross's team started insisting on tighter NDA language for backstage staff and digital crews, going far beyond normal leak protection, and drifting into clauses about incidental capture of third-party activity. That kind of legal wording makes a lot more sense if someone in the camp was already scared of cameras, phones, and microphones suddenly turning into Exhibit A. All of this brings us right back to where the story started, the tapes. The recordings 50 has teased are not just messy audio, they are potential connective tissue between everything Diddy is accused of and the empire Ross built while laughing off every warning sign. Sources who claim to have heard more than the short snippets say there are references to specific hotels, to keeping people comfortable, even to who is responsible for making sure no one talks after a weekend wraps. In a RICO framework, that kind of casual logistics talk is gold because it suggests awareness of the bigger machine, not just a random appearance for a check. And the most unnerving part is the way 50 is moving. Slowly, deliberately, dropping just enough to get Ross's attention without ever saying, "This is all we have." Because that is the real cliff hanging over this story. The sense that what we have heard so far is only the opening act of a much longer leak campaign. People close to 50 have hinted that the current tapes are not even the worst, and that there are recordings involving other names, other cities, and other late-night conversations that would make powerful people in Atlanta, New York, and LA rethink every public alliance they have ever flaunted. If Ross was willing to let these first conversations happen on tape, what else did he say when he thought nobody would ever play it back? And if 50 is just now pressing play on round one, who do we think is next on his list? So we have to ask, after everything we have just walked through, do we really think this is as deep as it goes? Or are we only staring at the first crack in a wall that is about to burst? Let us know what you think in the comments. And until the next bomb drops, we will be watching, we will be listening, and we will see you soon.